What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious, along with Jess the Total Package, and Craig the British Bulldog, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, the Mount Rushmore of Intercontinental Champions. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast and on social media. And you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. Jess, we've done some Mount Rushmore overall, just kind of on our own. Like, not what the standards should be, but what we feel in our hearts. Who the Mount Rushmore is. Are we doing the same thing today in our hearts of the Intercontinental Championship?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Thank God.
Because there was a long time where the Intercontinental Championship was just kind of hot potatoed and it wasn't valuable, and like it was just treated as like a thing that they gave people. Oh, we need to get Curtis Axel over, put the IC title on him. Oh, we need to get Drew McIntyre. Yeah. We need to get Drew McIntyre over, put the IC title on him. Like, who else do we need to get over? Put the IC title on him. Like, and it was a misuse of the title. So yeah, forgive me if my personal Mount Rushmore is from a certain era, because it was treated with respect when I grew up watching wrestling. It was the workers' title. It was all those things. I'm gonna surprise you. There's gonna be some different people, mostly probably in my era. So I'll start. I think my first spot, I'm just gonna get him out of the way. Razor Ramon. I think that he would be on, like, the like, if everyone was trying to name one that they thought, like, you know, I think Ramon should be on there. He might arguably be the greatest IC champion ever. He was the first one to win it 4 times. Like, he was in there with everybody. And I know, like, he was champion from like 93, and I think he finally lost it in early 96, right before he left for WCW, like 4 or 5 months. So but he was in there with everyone at the time. He was in there with Michaels, Diesel, Garrett, Goldust. Like, he was in there with everybody. Dean Douglas, like everybody that you could think of that was a name. Like, Ramon wrestled them as Intercontinental Champion. Sid.
Why did you just throw Dean Douglas like that?
Well, he was in there. In that. not on my Mount Rushmore.
I love Dean Douglas, but I mean,
he was in there.
And Ramon unfortunately never won the world title. He lived in the Intercontinental land, and that was his thing. So that's one crazy for me. The second space, I'm gonna have to say The Miz, because in a sea of that title not being used right, and in a era where Vince 50-50 booked, and it was so hard to get through a Raw or a SmackDown every week, like, but we drudged on. Like, The Miz dusted that title off, like, after Cody, and Cody should get some respect. On a side note, Cody brought back the old classic look, and then after that, when The Miz won it, he was on there every week cutting promos saying that this title's important, it should be treated that way. I wrestle every week, and it was like this whole stretch where that reign became important. Like, he feuded with Seth, he feuded with Finn.
Thank goodness.
Like, he feuded with Ziggler. Like, him and Ziggler had a great match in there. And like, for a while there, I was like, what, did Miz just make the IC title relevant again? Like, and he got himself over with it. And so I'd say Miz is my second slot.
What years was this? What year was this?
I don't remember the exact years, but it was late. Had to have been late 2000s or early 2010s, like somewhere in that vacuum.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure, because maybe a little later, because when we went to WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, he lost the title that night to it was a 3-way. It was him against Finn and Seth won the IC title. So whatever year WrestleMania 34 was that big run. That was also when he cut that promo against Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack, because Daniel Bryan, he was the Intercontinental Champion, talking about how this title is important, and, like, you know, I should be treated with respect and all that. So he's my second.
2018.
Yeah. And he won it. He's won it before that too. But that reign, I remember going, dude, this, like, did it for me in The Miz. Like, where I'm like, you know what? You're all right. You got my respect. Like, and you deserve it. And I would say, I would say my third is probably Brett. I remember Brett won it 2 times, and it was between SummerSlam 91 and SummerSlam 92 when he lost it the last time. So he only held the title 2 times in the span of a year. But every match that he had was like, when he won the match again with Hennig, He defended it against everybody that they asked him to defend it to. He beat Piper at WrestleMania 8 in the best match I've ever seen Piper have, like on pay-per-view, like wrestling wise. He lost it to British Bulldog in Wembley in '92. Like all of the matches, he wrestled Shawn in house shows like before that, because they practiced the ladder match while Brett was Intercontinental Champion with Shawn. And so yeah, he was in there with everybody, and I think that Brett's because he was world champion afterwards, and that kind of overshadows it. But that I think Brett would be my third, my fourth. Damn it. I don't. So many. I don't want to do the obvious. I'm gonna say it's me. It's my thing. It influenced me. Randy Savage. Like he held the Intercontinental Championship only a couple of months shy of Honky. Like he was over a year IC champion from '86 to '87 when he lost to Steamboat. I think he might have beat
Tito?
Santana. Yeah, well, he beat Tito, but it was '86 when he beat Tito. I was thinking it was late '85. It was not. It was '86 when he beat Tito. Yeah, he was champion for over a year, and he got shitty feuds with Animal Steel. Like, but he dealt with it. Like
made the best out of him, made it relevant.
Yeah, made the best out of it.
True.
Challenged Hogan while he was Intercontinental Champion. Challenged Hogan because like Hogan wanted to see this guy's got something. Like, the crowd really is into him. Savage wore the IC title like proud. He defended it against Santana. He defended it against Piper. He defended it against Steamboat, like, and lost to Steamboat. So Savage has got to be on a fourth spot. So we got to go Ramon, The Miz. What's my third? Fuck. Oh, Brett and Savage. There we go. What am I for?
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I share two of the four with you there, Jess.
Those are the correct ones.
And I am going to go. I am going to do one of the obvious right away and just put Honky on the Rushmore, just because it's what everyone chases at. And when you talk about 30 years, it's always Honky's record. So that's always kind of before Gunther just kind of ended it. It takes a special guy to actually keep that streak alive, and 30 years later, you're still chasing Honky Tonk Man as the ultimate IC kind of title goal. So for me, he's on Rushmore.
He was like the top 5 guys in the rockin' 80s, where wrestling was one of the most over it's ever been. Like, he was white hot, him and Jimmy Hart. Like, Honky was 100%. Top 5 in the company with Hogan and all them, like with Savage and all them. Like, he was top 5.
Yeah. Right, sure.
Right. Let's see. Second for me, I had Bret Hart on mine too. I mean, it's the worker's belt. It's also kind of like how it's a test run for what their ceiling is. And Jess, you said it earlier. He made a meal and made the most out of every single defense and made it important.
They were wonderful matches. He made it his goal to make them great.
Yeah. And then, I mean, culminating like this thing right here. Probably shouldn't have lost it. It just had to do it to sell out 80,000 tickets.
Yeah.
And obviously, Bulldog didn't hold it very long at all after that. Third for me also is Savage, because I do remember a long part of our childhood and long part of watching and thinking about the IC title was Savage's reign. With that cape, with that belt, lie, cheat, steal, and then eventually leading to what potentially is one of the greatest matches of all time, if not the greatest WrestleMania match of all time after almost 50 years, is Savage and Steamboat, right? So that's the ultimate IC kind of moment too. And again, it didn't last with Steamboat either, whether on his reign, I think he wanted to take some time off, etc. for the birth of his child, and Vince, nope, get rid of it.
Bye.
And then fourth, and I was a bit of a Laps fan through a lot of this period, but the more I researched this kind of topic, the more, and I didn't realize he had the most IC belt wins, and this might be just during the period of what you're saying of when it was probably disrespected.
He almost made my list.
But Jericho, right? 9-time champ.
Right.
So I just put him on there kind of for the historical. Yeah, you said a good point earlier. It's like it's when it's a bit meaningless kind of thing. So maybe it was that period, and they were just kind of swapping it back and forth to everyone in hot potato, that whole thing. So maybe he's like just the recipient of all the luck in that. Period. So that is my 4. It's Honky, Bret Hart, Randy Savage, Chris Jericho.
I always viewed Macho as a world champion first because of what he's accomplished, and that's kind of where my list would differ when it comes to the Mount Rushmore of Intercontinental champions. So number one, I'll just call it. I think we've all said Razor Ramon, the first guy to maintain Intercontinental status and the first person to win the title 4 separate occasions. That's definitely on my list. Number 2 is The Miz. No one has held it for that period of time with the amount of titles, with the exception of one person, and that's where I take it to Chris Jericho. That's the world champion, where I'm like, you can argue he was more of a world champion, but nobody held the title more times than Chris Jericho. And I think Chris Jericho kind of embodies the Intercontinental champion. I always felt like, I know he was, what's funny is I think he came right into WWE and he won the unified title before anybody else did, right? And but he won the title 9 times. And if you look at that as when someone says who's better, Hogan or Flair, Hogan held it for more days maybe in one consecutive title run, but Flair held the title over 16 times. So there's always that argument. So I think that's where Jericho kind of gets it for me. And my last one, I don't think this is on anyone's list, but I think if you talk about embodying the Intercontinental Championship and it's built for it, I think it's Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is like,
oh wow,
is my guy. 6-time champion, held it for an insane amount of time. At 14, he's 14 on the list for how long you held the title for consecutive title sets. He held it for, it's interesting, some people have him for 372 days, but WWE recognizes him for 341 days, which is, almost a full year. And I know, Jess, this is kind of tough because they switched the IC title so many times. But I love what Dolph Ziggler did in that period of time with the IC title, pushing it back and forth. I think him and The Miz kind of traded off a little bit, and it was more about how many times you can win it back in those periods. And I think you guys kind of went to like, oh, he might have held it once, but he held it for 400 days. I just look at number of titles, and it's kind of where I was going with it. No wrong answers, just saying like that was where I kind of took it. So Dolph's on my list, and I loved what Dolph did with the title over that time frame, and the feuds he held, winning it back and forth. Good stuff.
Dolph's got to be remembered for something. There's always all these great little things that we want to remember Dolph for. I'm like, Jesus, like it's just a shame that like. But I guess he's won the world heavyweight title. He has won it, and it's like it's just they never put the cart behind the horse or whatever. They never let him.
They never strapped the rocket shit to him. Yeah. Really, he had the money in the bank. Yeah. He won the title, and
I think that especially when the internet came up in its infancy, that was one of the first early gripes. But to that, I say it all the time. Jake Roberts never won a title in WWF.
Right.
Jim Duggan never won a title in WWF. Piper didn't until they said thank you, so they gave him the IC title for like a month.
Right.
Like it's like just or a couple months, and it's like there's just so many. Paul Orndorff never won a title in WWF. It just. DiBiase never won the world title or the Intercontinental title. DiBiase was a tag champion, even though we remember him as singles. He was $1 Million Man. Money Incorporated, won the tag title. There's so many people that aren't going to win, so at least you could say when they were hot potato in titles, Dolph did win the world heavyweight title and he won 6 IC titles. And, so for as important as the belt was then, I think he was as good a choice as any to try to get legitimacy to the title. Dolph is so talented. So it's just he belongs there. Yeah, he's one of those guys that people forget about because the title was hot potatoed so much or just not valued as much. They just used it to, oh, this guy's struggling getting over. Let's just throw the IC title on him. Oh, Dolph, shut up about the world title. Here's the IC title, and it's like I just felt like they used it wrong. But to recognize Dolph is good.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
I think he did what he could with what he was capable of doing. And everybody looked at Dolph at 212 pounds and be like, he can't.
Like there was a couple people. Jericho was on the bubble for me.
Right.
The Rock was on the bubble for me. Because when he first came in, his defining moments with the Nation and Shamrock and Triple H in '98. That feud for the IC
Mhm.
title was really good, and The Rock
Right.
needed it. Like, I've always felt like it's a good barometer. Even the ones that end up going to the world title level, they want to sometimes see like, okay, we think we want to put the world title on this guy sometime soon. How are the fans going to react if he's champion? What if we put
That's
a
why Stone Cold won it. That's why
and
Macho won
Stone
it.
Cold won the IC title. There's a lot of people that won that belt first before they won
Mhm.
the world title. Shawn Michaels did, Bret Hart
Right.
did, like all of them did. Like
Yeah.
not
It's a
all of them, but
test.
a lot of them did. And so it rarely happened back. I mean, it happened more backwards in the dead period that I call it, where people would be world champion, but then they go and win the IC title. Like I think Roman did that, and like Triple H was world champion, but then he would I think, and then yeah, he won the IC title afterwards. Like so, it's like they did it
Triple
backwards
H
for
has
a
like
few
5
people.
IC titles, if I remember right. He has like 5
Yeah. Yeah,
reigns.
so it's like there's just things where I'm like,
Crazy.
blah blah blah. But like, I mean, yeah, like to remember the ones that it defined them or they helped define the title. That's what I always look for. I don't think Benoit was IC champion. Yeah, he was. I want to say Benoit
He
had to have been.
Yeah,
Regal
Benoit's like 4. Benoit's 4 or 5.
Regal was IC champion for a bit.
Yep. Triple H was the 5-time champion.
RVD.
6 times for RVD, by
Like
the
so
way.
there was a lot of people that did jump out, but yet The Rock and Jericho were on my bubble. I was so close, like to going, yeah, like they were significant, like Jericho because of the many times, but Jericho had some good
Always in
IC
that
title runs.
mix.
And no one mentioned Michaels either, and I think Michaels is a pretty good
Yeah,
IC champ.
I think
I
he
just,
is like Michaels got overshadowed. I
just
think because his second run with it, that he had to give it up like 2 months later because of the fight that he got into with the Marines, and then like just after that,
yeah,
Vince let
but
him recover, and then he put him for the world title.
I always think of Michaels in the world title picture. I mean, he kind of overcan. That's why I don't put Brett in there. I know Jericho did win world title gold, but to win it 9 times, it kind of embodies that championship. So it's tight. I mean, and it's all about opinion. But what do you think is the OG Mount Rushmore? Do you got to put Gunther on that list?
I say yeah,
Say Gunther,
but
Gunther and
Honky,
Honky are both on there. Yeah.
Gunther, Honky, Miz,
Ramon.
and Jericho. Oh yeah. So you
Yeah.
put Miz, Jericho, or Ramon. You interchange one of them out.
Yeah, I can't see it being, but a lot of people might put Henning. People could be offended that nobody
Yeah,
brought
no
up
one
Henning.
mentioned Mr.
Like,
Perfect either. Yeah,
like because
Oh,
after
he's on my list though.
that was
He was a
280
two-
days. Oh, he was.
He was a 2. Well, no, not he was
Oh.
on. He was like he was on my short list.
and it's just like I had to pick either
Oh.
Brett or Henning, and I think I just went with Brett because Brett had not that Henning didn't carry lesser talent because he had to in his role. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know why I didn't put Henning on. I have no good excuse.
Perfect only won it twice, but he held it for like 406 days.
And he wrestled everybody. He wrestled Boss Man. He wrestled Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah.
He wrestled Brett. He
Yeah,
wrestled
100%.
There's a lot of, I'm not, and maybe I shame on me, but I don't know for some odd reason. I don't know why. I think Henning's just known as being, one of the guys who should have won the world title but didn't. I think that's a big thing for like Henning and Hall. Those two typically get tagged with that, like greatest guys to never win a
True.
version of the world title. And like, so I think I don't know. It probably is a crime that I don't include Kurt Hennig on that.
It's hard to believe that Perfect only won the title twice and Razor won it 4 times. When you would think that Perfect, would win it, lose it, win it back several times, but it just didn't work out that way. It's because at the end of the day, he started getting fed to Hogan on like Saturday Night's Main Event and other places. He'd get tossed around and kind of sell for. He kind of got fed to people. But yeah, Perfect could have been. I don't know. It could have been pretty incredible to what the possibilities were on that set. But I think Mr. Perfect kind of holds a nostalgia without the IC title, if that makes any sense at all.
I think a lot of people will be mad at that. How the fuck could you talk about him and then not put him on there? I don't know.
I mean, you can't
choice.
you can't put Jake on there because Jake never won it. But Jake is in the same conversation of Perfect in the realm of these are amazing people with amazing talent. Can talk on the mic, had great technician work, but it's you're talking about 4 people on the guideline of an IC title, and that's what makes it really difficult. It's and Jake can't even be on. He never won it, so Jake can never be on the list. Perfect won it twice, so it's hard to put him on the list of 4. By the way, there's been 90 intercontinental champions. By the way, and you got to pick 4 of them. You got a big 4. It's hard. It's super hard. So, but I think a lot of people would go with if you go with the standard scientific of it, Gunther's held it the most with one at 666 days with one title run. Honky's the second in line. And then from there, you can go nuts. You can go, okay, The Miz, or you can go Jericho because he held it the most, or you can go Macho because of his nostalgia with it. There's those last two are totally interchangeable, in my opinion. So, yeah. All right. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast. And on social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast? For Jess, Craig, and myself, this is the O.W.P signing off. Have a